Welcome, everybody. Thank you for watching. Really, honestly, so I've been busy this week. We got a Vegas trip coming up this next week. Amanda has a bodybuilding competition, so that's pretty exciting. Right, Amanda? Can we get a flex for the crowd? It'll be on TV.
I can't wait to eat.
She's been very low carbs, a lot of cardio. With low carbs comes low patience. But she's competing in the Olympia, hoping to get her pro card. That'll be exciting. It'll be more exciting when it's all done. But I'm really excited for her. But so I've been busy with work, trying to kind of catch up on that stuff. Trying to get ahead so that next week I can work remote and be okay. So just been a busy week. I really didn't even have like anything planned, but love the support. This is honestly the only league I do a podcast on. I've tried doing a podcast on another league, but I just don't get into it as much. I don't know. There's something about you guys that I love, but getting all sentimental now. No, but honestly, I like this group. It's fun. It's a lot more fun when you're winning. Isn't that right, Eric? Oh, poor Eric. Eric was one catch of 5 yards away from winning a game this year. But now he goes against Mr. Undefeated. I'm honestly nervous. This is one of those where you look, this is like one of those NFL games you look and you got, say, Kansas City versus the Carolina Panthers. Maybe that's a stretch because I haven't won a championship yet. Let's say, let's say the Eagles. Let's say you've got the Eagles with a healthy A.J. Brown and a healthy Devontae Smith. Every time I start to record, my dog is slurping up water, making all sorts of noise. Anyway, so let's say you got the Eagles or you got the 49ers or someone going against the Carolina Panthers, and you're like, oh, that's not even worth watching. This is one of those games where everyone bets against the Panthers, bet against Eric, and Eric comes out and has a day. That's what I feel like this week's going to be. So I'm honestly a little nervous because this is one of those. This is why we play the game. It's one of those. It's one of those. You play the game because you can't predict everything that goes on. So I'm honestly a little nervous. I bet Eric won't bet me. Every year he sends out, "Oh, you want to bet?" I haven't heard anything. It's crickets. Oh, poor Eric. But we'll get into it. I honestly, there's some hope. There's some hope there. I've liked some of the moves. Yeah, we'll get into. I'll break down some teams. We'll recap a few things. We'll go over some matchups from this last week. Some matchups coming up. I may update my power rankings. And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna go through. Maybe I've been a little too nice. I'm gonna go through, and I've got a list of not just power rankings, but who are contenders and who are pretenders. We'll go through that. I've got a few comparisons. Honestly, I don't have too much time, but I'm gonna try to whip this out real quick. Whip it out. But yeah, we'll jump right into it. Pretty happy about. I was actually a little. Yes, obviously I'm happy about winning, but a little distraught because I was like, I didn't score very many points. But looking at it, I was third on the week, so I was pretty happy. At the same time, I'm going against someone who's lost CMC, which, not good news. 10-9 is in both. If this guy's having to go to Germany, there's usually a reason why it's not legal in the U.S. And yeah, we may have more restricted medical things. I'm not even going to attempt to know what I'm talking about. But I do feel like there's a reason why some some of these things are outlawed or not legal in the US and that are legal in Germany. If you got someone going to Germany for their tendonitis in both legs, oof. And this is what I was nervous about because I was honestly thinking, so I had CMC 2 years ago and the guy, yes, he did good, but was starting to look old and his knees were getting his knees looked like they were weak. It just did not look like he had that burst. And then he came out last year and he was CMC. Like, he was amazing. He was a league winner. He was one of those where you draft 101 and then he ends up being a 101. But I remember thinking this year, I remember 2 years ago, I was thinking this guy looks old. And if you have someone on your team, you pay attention to them. So I was like, I'm staying away. But tendonitis in both legs, that's scary. That is scary. Anyway, so I was going against someone with CMC and Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice, who got destroyed by his own quarterback. Rough. So yeah, it was a victory. And then I'm also going against Achan, who, let's face it, that team is not the same without Tua. It is absolutely not the same without Tua. And Huntley is a decent quarterback, but coming off the street, only being there for a couple weeks, you just don't see quarterbacks coming in, which is walking into the building, unless they already know the playbook from previously playing for that team. You don't see them just come in and produce. And we saw that. It just was not the same without Tua. So, yeah, it was a victory. Good game, Dre. But definitely, if things did not fall perfectly for me, it could have been a different story. So, yes, I'm happy about the win, but it was one of those where, I don't know. I'm trying to keep, a good mentality. I'm not trying to celebrate because there's nothing to celebrate. Yes, I'm undefeated, but there's a long way to go. We got a long way. You play to win the game. And winning is winning the championship. Like the Hawks. I love the Hawks. We're not a Super Bowl team. If we make the Super Bowl, that's a win. I'm in the mindset, let's say, I'm in the mindset of some of these teams that are the Chiefs, 49ers. It's Super Bowl or bust. That's how I feel. It's championship or bust. If I don't win a championship, not a good year. So I'm trying to keep that mentality. Not celebrating. Anyway, so yeah, there were some injuries. That's tough. We had some players that came back. Jordan Love came back, and boy oh boy, when I'm right, I'm right. And I told you all, you cannot predict trades. And I'm gonna dive into this because this kind of chaps my ass a little bit. You had last week here, and I'll share. We'll leave and go. We'll go take a look at it. Last week we have some people up in arms. Oops. I gotta find this crap. Transactions. We got some people up in arms because we feel that there is a not very fair trade of Jaden Reed, Isaiah Likely for Josh Jacobs, saying Brian's getting taken advantage of, blah, blah, blah. This was not an unfair trade, and I told you we don't know. It got vetoed, which I don't know why, but we can clearly see Jaden Reed is the number one. The guy is going to produce. So we pretty much, or you guys, whoever vetoed this crap, were the reasons why Brian does not have a better wide receiver. And yes, Brian does need some running backs, but I don't feel like it was an unfair trade. But that's not what chaps my ass. What chaps my ass is over here. You got the main ringleader of getting all upset about this trade. He's taking advantage of Brian. Goes and trades pretty much the same. I'm not gonna say crap, but the same kind of trade where you've got J.K. Dobbins and Roman Dunze. Like if you look at it, okay, just take away Josh Jacobs from here and here. If you trade away Jaden Reed, Isaiah Likely for Rome Odunze, J.K. Dobbins, yeah, there might be one advantage on one team, but I honestly think that Austin turned around and pretty much went and traded for this, like, did the same thing that he got upset about Nate doing. So, all right. But there was a trade that did happen that right now I think the winner of this, and this can always change, I think the winner is Austin. He got Travis Kelce, pre-Rashee Rice injury with that high upside. Now I think, I mean, this is one of those where like all the hype is on Travis Kelce because he's back to being the number one. But that might not be the case, so we'll see. We'll definitely see on that one. But I think out of this one, I think both win, honestly, because you've got Paul, who's obviously got some good tight ends. He's got Dallas Goedert, and then he also has T.J. Hawkinson on the bench or on the IR coming back. I think they just opened his practice schedule or the 21-day schedule where he can come in and practice and be taken off the IR. So he's got definitely options there. So picking up Jalen Waddle, and then if he can make it to where he's got a decent record, chance for the playoffs, which I mean it looks like he does, and Tua comes back, that's going to be a big addition to his team. But yeah, some updates there. Yeah, and that's I think I went over. So we'll look at this last week's. Matchups. Yeah, you had Mr. Sloppy Poppy trying to get his first win of the year. Unfortunately, comes up short. Yeah, like I said, I got fortunate with Tua not being there, with Achane not really producing too much, but Alvin Kamara keeps on producing. So Dre's got that number one, what looks to be the number one running back locked in, loaded. And I told you at the beginning of the year, the only concern that I had for Dre's team was injuries. I unfortunately just don't think there's too much depth. I mean, we'll jump into it a little bit later, but I said from the beginning, check the tape. Concern for that team is injury. And that could be any team, but I was particularly concerned about Mr. Organic's team. We got, and then I told you all, man, I've been right. I feel like I've been right more times than I've been wrong. Matchup of the week, I would definitely say Dre, Mr. I'm not changing my fucking name for Colby. Outscoring with a big comeback with Derrick Henry absolutely going berserk. And then you had Paul with his kind of comeback, and you had Jahmyr Gibbs, who looked like, if I can remember correctly, it looked like he could have had 3 touchdowns. He started a little bit of a comeback, but that Seahawks and Lions needs to happen every year. They always put up good games, high scores, very exciting. But I would definitely say this was the matchup of the week. You had the number one team going against the number 2. That's a tough beat for Paul. It's always really tough being the number 2 scorer going against the number 1. And this is one of those like results bias type thing. Like if you had, so Whitney lost. So, but if she went against Brian, she's got a win and she's 2-2. and she's probably feeling a little bit better about her week. And that's why I'm trying like not to get too excited about winning, is because if I win against either one of these two, I would have got my ass kicked. And I mean, you could say that for any team, but that's just part of the luck with fantasy football. But yeah, it was an exciting week. Ready to keep moving forward. We are in the deep. We are like pretty much a quarter way through the fantasy football season. We are a quarter way through the fantasy football season. We are deep into it. Freaking love it. Freaking love it. So yeah, we'll jump into the power rankings. I'm going to start with 10 just because I think it's obvious. It's Mr. Slappy Poppy. And I've got contenders. I've got pretenders for the categories. And then I've got Eric's team. I'm going to try not to talk too much shit because I'm going against you. I'm trying not to jinx myself. But Eric's not a pretender. He's not a contender. He's eliminated. I would say, Eric, count your blessings. Take your whoopings. I say you're done. You're done for the year. It's just so hard. I talked about it last year. The magic number, you have to at least hit 7 games. And last year, I think I started 0-4 or 0-5, and I pretty much knew it was done. I didn't give up, nor do I expect Eric to give up. But you are 0-4. You need to win. You need to go 7-3. I would say, to have any kind of hope. 7-3. With a team like this is not going 7-3. Now, I do like some of these pickups. I do like Dontavian Wicks. I think the guy almost had 3 touchdowns. He had 13 targets after Christian Watson went down. Chase Brown with 2 touchdowns this last week. And then Chuba Hubbard. I think even with Jonathan Brooks coming back, Chuba Hubbard, they're not going to go away from him. The guy has been producing over the last 2 weeks, 25 and 20. You take away the first game, you're looking at a top 12 running back right there. Swift had a better game. And the only reason I would say, yeah, go ahead, start him, is that matchup against Carolina. But you also have the ugly. Anthony Richardson looks like he's hurt. If he does play, I've talked about it, he's got that upside. Terry McLaurin and that offense has been looking good and crisp. DJ Moore, the guy hates his new quarterback. You cannot convince me any other way. Guy does not like his new quarterback. And then Garrett Wilson, I was wrong. You were wrong. Everyone was wrong. Garrett Wilson, the guy is not an alpha. He would be a very good wide receiver too. Honestly, there's trade talks about Devontae Adams going to Jets, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers there. If anything, that's going to be beneficial for Garrett Wilson, because then he's not going to track that number 1 cornerback, and he could be like the new Lazard, where he's getting, he's can be a very good 2. He's a T. Higgins, in my opinion. He just hasn't shown it. You get A.J. Brown back. There's hope with this team. There is hope, but 0-4. Eliminated. Number 10, easy. And you have the lowest point scored. And then next up, I've got Brian. This ain't no contender. This is a pretender. Sorry, Brian. Talked about it at length. RB depth, there's none. Yeah, you got Justice Hill. He looks like he's decent, but Mark Andrews, the guy, he's not the guy. He's not the same old Mark Andrews. There's some work that needs to be done here. And between Brian and Eric, the lowest score scored every week, it's only been the 2 people. Brian got the lowest score first week. Eric then got the lowest score week 2, week 3, and then Brian got the lowest score week 4. So I think this is a no-brainer with these 2 being at the bottom. Not going to beat a dead horse here. Next up, I've got, and I think from here on up to 4 or even 5, I would say 5. Between here and 5, you could almost put Whitney any of these places. The talent is there. Deontay Johnson with Andy Dalton has been better. Chris Godwin has been phenomenal. Um, Not the biggest fan of your fantasy quarterbacks. Bijan Robinson has been, I love the guy, but he's been disappointing, honestly. James Conner has been consistent. Trey McBride missed last week. He's only got a touchdown off of a fumbled. He's not gotten a receiving touch. Jared Goff has more touchdowns receiving than Trey McBride. And Zay Flowers is just too inconsistent. The talent is here, production's not. So I'm going to say this is a pretender. Next up, biggest fall. We got the Grim Reaper himself, Dre. Oof. Whoever's on your team, I mean, you've been hit with pretty tough, and so has Whitney, I would say. But you got Raheem Mostert, who's been hurt, Rashee Rice, Christian McCaffrey, and then Tua. I think directly affects Devon Achane. They cannot stretch field, so they just need to stack the box. And honestly, they need to dump the ball off to this guy a little bit more. But he's directly affected, along with that whole team, by Tua not being there. So just with all the injuries, there's only so many injuries you can take and still be a good team. So you're not a pretender. I'm not going to call you a contender. You're hospital bound. I think you could go either way with this one. I don't know. I could see this being a contender with some pieces coming back. Rashee Rice has not been confirmed with an ACL tear, so we'll see. But the guy's not going to be back anytime soon. And no news, I would say, if anything, is good news. There's no confirmation of an ACL tear. So that's, if anything, that's good news. But just with all the injuries, I can't put you up any higher than 7. Number 5, honestly, this team is a little bit surprising on how it's not been doing as well. If you look at it, he's got Jalen Hurts, who's got that rushing upside, hasn't been doing so well the last couple weeks. I think missing A.J. Brown is huge, so that's a big factor. But Saquon Barkley, like I said, I think this guy could be the 101. If there's redraft today, 101, Saquon Barkley, no one's even batting an eye. That's okay. Nico Collins has the most receiving yards and is on pace for over 2,000, like a record-breaking year. Jonathan Taylor, I think they're discovering that they can't lean too much on Anthony Richardson, so they need to lean back on Jonathan Taylor, but the guy's injured. So that worries me a little bit. Yes, you have the backup, but he's not Jonathan Taylor. This is a very good team, and this is a very deep team. I think you can put almost any, I mean, besides Clyde, but I'm sure you just picked him up just to stash on your IR. Honestly, any of these players are startable. Trey Sermon, if Jonathan Taylor is out. Any of these guys are a good start. So there's definitely depth. The just team has not been able to get it together over the last couple weeks. So I got to put you at 6. But I'm going to call you a contender. I'm definitely going to say contender, a good team to watch out for. Next up, number 5, I've got Eddie. And although I've got Austin as a contender, Eddie, I'm going to say you're a pretender. And this is why. Patrick Mahomes. He's the current GOAT. Obviously the current GOAT. But this is where good quarterbacks aren't always good fantasy quarterbacks. Likewise, not the best. Like Justin Fields, for example, in the past has not been a good real-life quarterback. Excellent fantasy quarterback. I think Patrick Mahomes is the inverse Justin Fields of prior years. This year, I mean, Justin Fields has been doing pretty damn good. So I'm going to say prior year Justin Fields, anti-Justin Fields for Patrick Mahomes. He's just not a good fantasy producer. Has not scored over 18 points this year. And that's with his weapons. And he's losing. His weapons are dropping like flies. Marvin Harrison, I've got Kyler Murray. That team's a little suspect. They've had the matchups. And yeah, he had the one monster game. But besides that, I mean, Marvin Harrison, where you draft him, he's just doing okay. Devontae Adams, guy's not going to play any more games for the Raiders. If this gets dragged on, you don't have a wide receiver there. He's just kind of a filled spot. And I would love to trade for him, but you don't trade. So I'm not even going to bother sending anything your way. Brees Hall has been not as good as you want. And you've got Braylon Allen back in the backfield, gobbling up half of his touches. Kyron Williams is good. Dalton Kincaid is starting to turn a corner. But besides that, you've got a couple good pieces here with Jonathan Brooks and Tank Dell. But if they're not playing, they're not putting points up. This could go the other way. I'm going to call this team a pretender, though. Number 4. Dre, the Lions. Did you really have to put that in there? Did you? We've got passion here. We've got some passion there. That's what that's telling me. Is Dre's got some passion. I think I'm gonna call Dre. You're Mr. Dre Campbell, not Dan Campbell. Dre Campbell. That's who you should be, because you got all of it. I've talked to. You've got 4 Detroit players on your team. Dre Campbell, for sure, should be the new name. I'm calling it right now. I was thinking about it. I was gonna spit out a few, see if they stuck, but I just thought of that. Dre Campbell. This one definitely contender. You got Derrick Henry's looking good. Joe Mixon, when he's healthy and playing, good. Brock Bowers has been one of the few consistent tight ends, and that can be a huge game changer. Especially I have Pitts, goose egg. Oh, goose egg. And Dre, or Mr. Organic, Grim Reaper, he's got Gesicki, puts up negative points. I mean, a tight end could be a game changer if you find one that hits. George Pickens as a number 1 wide receiver, and although he hasn't been that great for fantasy, I think the longer he's there with Justin Fields, the more chemistry they're going to get, and he's going to get a pretty good looking schedule come the back half of the season. Brian Thomas Jr., he's just going to get better with every week. Drake London's been getting a few consistent touchdowns. Although this last week he didn't, but division matchups, I try not to think too much about those and put too much context because they scheme some people out. We saw it with Detroit. Jameson Williams, big hitter. Amon-Ra, clear number 1. Jared Goff got a receiving touchdown. I saw a meme where he's got more receiving touchdowns than some of the big names. He's got more than George Pickens. He's got more than Trey McBride. He's got more than, I believe, Travis Kelce. He's got more than a lot of players that you're like, oh, shoot. And the guy was perfect. So, and then you got Cooper Kupp once he comes back. When he can play, when he's healthy, he's a dog. So there's depth, there's talent, there's production. Easy. I could put Dre, I think, anywhere between 4 and 1, and I'd be happy with that power ranking. Number 3, this one came as a shock to me, and I've been disrespecting this team a little bit, but I want to put Nate. I'm gonna have Nate as number 3, and you got lucky. I would say you got lucky with the veto. If you honestly thought maybe I'm making a bad move, let's veto it. I could understand that. But Jaden Reed, clear cut number 1. You've got Tyreek Hill when Tua gets back, clear number 1. DK's been an absolute dog. He had one bad game against Denver. The freaking Jets put up less than 100 yards offense against Denver. Denver's defense is better than what I think most people think. So DK's been an absolute dog. I like this pickup of Kareem Hunt. Yeah, he's older. He's not what he used to be. But the guy is a reliable back, and I feel like he's going to get that. He's going to be your last year Gus Edwards. He can be. And then ETN, Yeah, he has not been as good, um, but I think they're gonna stick with him. He's a decent RB2. If you can figure out your running back situation, I think this is a team. Although I'm going to put you at 3. I put down pretender. I put down pretender. I'm going to put your power rankings at 3. I'm going to call you pretender. And I've been preaching it all year. Your running back depth is non-existent. What happens if Pacheco comes back? What happens if Tank Bigsby takes over? I'm going to put you at 3, but you're one of the most sus 3-1 teams I've seen. Prove me wrong, but you're. I compare you to Sam Darnold. You're producing, you're getting the wins, but we're all waiting for it to just fall apart. I don't know. And then number 2, Paul. Definitely Paul. My concern on this team is quarterback, but we've seen like the number 1 quarterback, I think Baker Mayfield, number 2, Sam Darnold. You can pick I don't know. Quarterbacks have been weird. They've been super weird. They've been hard to predict. It's just been, like I said, Patrick Mahomes, he's the GOAT, the current GOAT. He's not the number 1 quarterback. You've got Josh Allen, who's not been doing as good. He put up like 7 points this last week. So I think having 2 quarterbacks is almost a must, just kind of playing off matchup. That's my opinion. So I don't know. I'm trying not to put too much value into quarterbacks, especially in a 1 quarterback league. There's no weakness though at this team. On this team, you've got a few people on the bye, and yet your team is still very solid. I got nothing bad to say about this team. So obviously contender, and then number 1, you all know it's this guy. This guy. Let's go. Oh, I think I looked it up. Malik Neighbors, number 2, and Justin Jefferson, number 4, wide receiver. Even you take away Jamar Chase, you take away that trade, I've got the number 2, I've got the number 4 wide receiver. James Cook, top 10 wide receiver. Kenneth the Bone Walker. I was nervous. I was nervous to start him, so I didn't, because the Lions defensive line is so good. This guy doing frickin' flips out there, gaining 10 yards. Looks like if you combine him, I strongly believe if you have Kenneth Walker out there for week 2, week 3, he obviously outproduces Charbonnet. You take his, I didn't do the exact math. I haven't had that much time on my hands at work. You take away, or you put Charbonnet's points that he got in week 2, week 3, and you give it to Ken Walker. I think the guy's number 2. I think Alvin Kamara stays the 1, but I think Ken Walker is the 2. I think he's going to be my steal of the draft. I'm so excited to have him. I think I'll miss Malik Neighbors this week, but my weakness is tight end. I'm a little concerned about Kyler Murray, but if Justin Fields keeps that job, I like him as a backup quarterback. I feel like I've got the depth, even if maybe I could go get another wide receiver piece, but there's so much talent out there. I feel like I could pick up a wide receiver 3 and I'd still be comfortable. I just think I got the best team. Obviously a contender. I'm just afraid I'm going to have a Nate type of year where I'm dominating, and then first playoff game I play in, team shits the bed. That's my concern. I've got some concerns, but I try not to get too ahead of myself. I got to make playoffs still. In my opinion, I've got 3 more wins. If I start 7-0, I'll be tickled pink because I just need to go 1-8, and I feel like I'm guaranteed in the playoffs. We'll see. I've got a favorable matchup, but like I said, it makes me nervous. We play the game for a reason. Matchups coming up, like I said, a little nervous about that. I think this will be a really interesting. Is Nate a pretender? Is Nate a contender? I'm saying he's a pretender. Prove me wrong. You beat Austin. Austin is 2-3. With that, if you think about it, you got the guy that has the number one wide receiver. I would say, I rank him as the number one running back. Could be 2-3 with a solid depth piece. Like, he's got depth. If Austin comes out of this week 2-3, oof, shocking. And then you got someone on the other side. You got Nate 4-1. Ooh, we'll see. And then I'm gonna say I was thinking, okay, if there's an upset of the week, I'm calling Brian. Brian's getting the upset of the week. Like I said, you got Devontae Adams not playing, already ruled out. They haven't updated it in here, but he's ruled out. You've got Patrick Mahomes without his weapons, a little suspect in my opinion. You got Kyron Williams going against what I think is an underrated defense in Green Bay. They don't have any weapons. That whole team is banged up, and there's not too many options. Yeah, you got Tank Dell off of the injury, or Javonte Williams, who does not look like the player that we thought he was. Like, obviously Tank Dell's going here. He's off the injury. You got Marvin Harrison go against the San Francisco defense. Yeah, I think he'll get touches. But you got Josh Downs as your flex. I don't know. On the other side, yeah, you got Charbonnet. Maybe they blow away the New York Giants. I think Charbonnet can get a sneaky touchdown in this game. I think this is upset. Brian, I'm calling it upset of the week. Yes, you're favorable, but I think we're all expecting Nettie to win. I say otherwise. And then who else we got? We got Dre Campbell and Whitney. Oof, Whitney, if you lose this one, 1-4, that's gonna be hard to come back from. I'm gonna call this one the game of the week. Dre Campbell and Miss Whitney. And then this will be an interesting one too. What two teams that I think can definitely make it to the championship. One team's going to go out positive, 3-2. One team's going to go out 2-3. Ooh, we've had some good matchups. I would say this year we've had some really good matchups. We've got close games. It's been I don't know if there's an algorithm out there, but it's been that algorithm has been on point. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'm not sure if I'll get one out, podcast out next week. Like I said, we're in Vegas. Yeah, I'll probably do one. I'll do one while I'm working. But good luck to everybody except for Eric. Also, I want to do one bet. I'm not much of a bettor, but while I'm in Vegas, I got to do I want to do a parlay sports bet. Anyone have any suggestions? Shoot them in the group text. I'd much appreciate that. I think it'd be cool to like put in $20 with a chance to win like over 1,000. I don't know. I think it'd be cool. We'll see. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Sorry this was not the best, not the most prepared. I like to kind of have more fun of intros, but I honestly couldn't come up with anything this week. It's just been a busy one. But thanks for watching.